How to Train Your Dragon. An amazing movie by DreamWorks. Better than Disney. They wouldn't be mentally subjugated into making their best movie a live-action remake. That's exactly what happened. So I decided to watch it. So from How to Train Your Dragon Nerd, here's my honest take of the remake. And honestly, oh god, what did I just watch? For a movie that's 30 minutes longer than the original, I was surprised when they cut out some scenes from the original film and dragged on some other scenes. Some made sense, others not so much. Not to mention the entire pacing of the film. The jokes that didn't land, some of the characters just felt really weird. The dragons, I don't think those were dragons. I guess they were dragons. With the pacing of the film, some of the jokes just didn't land the same way as they did in the animated film. Take this for example, when Hiccup and Gobber are talking to each other at the blacksmith at the start of the film. This entire dialogue was kind of funny and kind of establishing the premise of who Hiccup is. Whereas seeing the exact same scene in the live action, the entire vibe was very different. I think a lot of it has to do with the delivery and the embodiment of some of the characters. Stoic, without a doubt, is no question one of the most honest recreations. Nothing about him has changed, nothing about him is different, so that's pretty cool. With some of the more humorous dialogue, like again with the blacksmith, it's just the delivery of the line that I had such a big problem with. It's like retelling the same joke, only that you've heard it before, but now someone else is telling the joke in a way that's trying to be exactly the same as to what it was before and how somebody else had done it. So it felt really weird to see that happen. With the embodiment of certain characters, that was done fairly well for some of them. I would say Snotlout was a good one. The twins and Astrid was very weird in my opinion. The twins didn't seem like the knucklehead, jokey kind of comic relief characters that they're meant to be. They came off as more of these bullies, sarcastic meanies that are just toxic for some reason. Why? I don't know. What was going on there? For example, this scene, when Hiccup is trading all the dragons to the gang, the delivery of Tough Nut's line versus Tough Nut in the live action, very different.
You were wise to seek help from the world's most deadly weapon.
Say no more. You were wise to seek the world's most deadly weapon.
They don't feel the same. One thing I really did like about the live action is how you see a lot more of the different characters in the live action, which I thought was great. However, they didn't keep it honest to what the character actually is. They changed it a little bit, and that felt dishonest to the point where I don't think this is Tough Nut, and neither is Astrid here. Astrid, in the animation, even though she was cold and cold-hearted, she didn't care about really anyone else, versus in the live action, there's a bit of banter going on with her and everyone else, which is a little weird. Not so much so that is questionable. However, in the animation, she didn't really have that much of a relationship with anyone else. She was always set on proving herself and trying to be the best in everything she did, to the point where if anyone interrupted her or tried to stop her, she would not let that person stop her. And that's seen in the scene with Hiccup, when Hiccup's shield is stuck to Astrid's axe. Then, you know, there was that entire scene. In the live action, I think that scene was done fairly well. However, that dialogue was targeted towards everyone instead of just Hiccup, which is a little odd, but I don't mind. That's not to say the actress who plays Astrid is bad. I think she's a great actress. I just think she was not directed in the right way possible, and that probably falls into the director's lap, or possibly the writer's lap, which is a little disappointing for sure. Plus, not to mention, Astrid feels a lot more emotionless and a lot more wooden in her character, at least in the live action, whereas in the animation, she's a lot more dynamic, has a lot more expression within her face and all that sort of stuff. Now, you might be thinking, well, Eoris, it's an animated film, of course they can do that, compared to the live action where it's actual people acting as that. No, I'm not gonna take that, because the acting, from what I've seen, is definitely possible. You can definitely act the same way from the animation into the live action. For example, take this guy from the epic amusement park thing. He plays Hiccup. He's got the mannerisms of Hiccup perfectly.
We're kind of dragon experts here in Burke.
Yeah.
Would you agree, bud?
And Hiccup is from an animation. It's possible. It is very possible to make it happen. It's just, I don't think there was enough time to let her get into that and let her figure out that sort of character. So I'm not blaming it on her. Now, when it comes to Hiccup, the actor who plays Hiccup did a pretty good job. He hit a lot of certain points. However, when it comes to some of the comedic dialogues, he didn't hit those lines. And I don't know if there's a specific reason to that. That's why I feel like the entire pacing feels really off, because of the way some of the lines are delivered and the way it's in response to each other. Like the blacksmith scene again.
If you ever want to get out there and start fighting dragons, you've got to stop all of this.
You just gestured to all of me.
Yeah, Stop being all of you.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
You, sir, are playing a dangerous game. Keeping this contained,
Woo!
there will be consequences.
If you ever want to get out there to fight dragons, you need to stop all this.
But you just pointed to all of me.
Yes, that's it. Stop being all of you.
Oh,
yeah.
You, sir, are playing a dangerous game. Keeping this much raw Vikingness contained. There will be consequences.
I'll take my chances. Sword sharpened now.
The pacing feels a lot more natural and a lot more smoother, whereas in the live action, it feels almost as it's rushed. The entire scene went by so quickly, it jumped around in between two other scenes. It was this whole thing. I don't understand why. I think this has got to do with the entire brain rot TikTok-ness of the world at the moment, where everyone's retention is just dead. Maybe that's why the pacing is really different. I much prefer the animation pacing for a movie that's meant to be recreation of the entire film. It felt really disingenuous to see that scene and see the entire pacing is much different.
What have we got? Grunkles, Nadders, Simplebacks, Skrells.
Oh, Skrill? Wait a second, that isn't a Skrill. This isn't a Skrill. That's not a Skrill. This isn't a Skrill either. That's not a Skrill. That's not a Skrill. Ah, that's a Skrill. Only took 1 hour, 15 minutes, and 12 seconds till we saw the Skrill. Why did they mention the Skrill? I don't understand. Why is a Skrill mentioned, but you don't see it until 1 hour, 15 minutes, and 12 seconds into the film? Why is it mentioned so early on? So weird. The dragons were the biggest problem I had with this film. Some of the dragons were great, some of the dragons not so much. The story I heard apparently was that the director wanted the dragons to come off more scary. I don't think that's a bad idea, but in comparison to what the dragons look like in the animation, they were still pretty scary in the animation, but they also had a sense of character that I think was missing in the live action. Take this Grunkle for example. What the heck is this? What is this creature? This isn't a Grunkle, this is some weird buffalo cow thing. I don't know what this is, a buffalo beetle with wings. This is a Grunkle. I think the Terrible Terror, however, is passable. It's just the eyes. The eyes are the thing that looks the weirdest. I don't know why they couldn't just keep it to a simple eye instead of giving it a more chameleon eye. I just don't like how it's too chameleon-like rather than it being its more individual sort of dragon. Now, the Deadly Nanad, however, what on earth is this creature? This thing looks like a triceratops with wings and a raptor chicken leg. What is this creature? I don't understand. Where's the deadliness in this? It looks like a dinosaur that can fly. Or should I say a pteranodon for you dinosaur nerds out there. I think the design of the Deadly Nanad is awful. I'm not a big fan of this design at all. It's really elongated its head. The spikes just attached to the head in this weird dinosaur triceratops way, rather than the spikes coming out of its head like it does in the animation. Also, its feet, in the live action, it's got more of this like dinosaur raptor kind of look, but in the animation, what it's originally based off is parrots. It's meant to have more of this parrot claw. The Red Death. Oh my goodness. What they decided to do with the Red Death fit perfectly, making it more scarier, making it more just terrifying and deathly. It's probably one of the few dragon designs that I didn't mind the change in. Even though it's like a completely different dragon, that's not too bad of a change. Only little thing I would like to mention is the mouth. Like, I don't understand why the mouth is so small. But apart from that, no other complaints. It's great, good design, love it. The hideous Zippleback. Now, I'm really confused by the design of this dragon. Yes, on one hand, it looks a lot bigger and a lot more chunkier, which is fine. I mean, it's a dragon. They have to make it live action compared to the skinny necks that it had in the animation. Fair enough. However, it came off more so like it was a snake rather than it being a dragon. I mean, yeah, sure, reptiles, fair enough, cool, whatever. But the look of the hideous Zippleback looked like a snake with horns. I don't mind it too much. The design looks still fairly good. I think it works enough that it's okay. Now, Toothless. Toothless, or should I say the Night Fury. This was the make or break of the entire film. This was the thing that will kind of decide how the entire film would go. And there's a lot of concern to make this dragon the best to the original as possible. And I think they did a pretty good job. Only weird thing I noticed was with the weird claw-like things, kind of like a dog or a cat or some other wild animal. The one thing I did notice was the shape of the head. If you compare the animated to the live action, the shape of the head gives it this more fish-like look rather than the dragon-like look. Another thing I noticed was the shape of the wings. If you see on the animation, the shape of the wings has this more straight than curved look, whereas in the live action, the wings looks completely different. Well, not super different, but different in the sense of the shape of the wing kind of like now does this weird curve in and then back out, which gives it this more dragon look, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like Toothless. From what I was able to also see, the wings look a little smaller. I don't know if that's just a me thing, but Toothless is quite a big dragon in the live action, but the wing proportionate size to Toothless, like he can just about fly, which I'm okay with compared to what Toothless was in the animation. He was a young dragon, of course, but then he also had these large wings that kind of just looked good. I don't know. That's just my little opinion. The one big issue I had with the Naifuri was the teeth, the retractable teeth. What on earth is this?
I could have sworn that.
Where's the scariness? Where's the intensity? He slowly grows in his teeth? What did I just watch? This is the animation.
Toothless. I could have sworn you had...
That's what it should be. The fact it just jumps at you rather than it slowly growing its teeth out. Plus, it's also weirdly really sharp and pointed versus the like more curved kind of look. I don't know if they did that because of the fact it's like growing in like a Wolverine's claws, or if they were trying to make it more scary looking. I don't know what the idea was with that. So that was the main thing I absolutely hate about the Naifuri. With the Monstrous Nightmare, I think the Monstrous Nightmare was done well. It was good. I have literally nothing to say about it. It's probably one of the only dragons without any problems I've really liked. However, one problem every single dragon had was the size of its eyes. They were all tiny, and in it all being really small, there's a lack of expression. And I feel like this is now common between the actors and the dragons. Both of them, all of them if anything, lacked some level of deeper expression and reaction that you can normally see. I think Toothless was maybe the only exception because of the fact he had like these big green eyes and he had a lot more physical movement, not as much as the animation. But I know what you're probably thinking, but Eoris, they are CGI dragons. Of course they won't be the same as the animation. Yeah, okay, but you can edit them and control them, right? So why not boost up the dragon physicality more and let them show their emotions more and make them look a little bit more like the original? You can control all of that. Just do it. That's the main thing I think with the eyes. It lacked expression. With that, all of the dragons in a sense lacked a sense of expression, which made them feel more like wild animals you couldn't understand rather than in the animation where it's like these wild dragons that you could slowly start to see and understand better. Plus, I'm kind of surprised that with the entire animation, they didn't kind of do a similar thing with the Kit Harington promo and kind of do something similar like that with the live action, because that would have been pretty cool in my opinion. Also, going back to Astrid, there was the romantic flight, right? Where was the romance in that scene? Except from the, you know, scenery and the scenic light and all that sort of stuff. The chemistry between Hiccup and Astrid, there's nothing there. All of a sudden, at the end of the scene, there's a sense of connection. But where did it come from? Nobody saw that progress over time. Whereas in the animation, you could sort of see that by Astrid becoming more and more closer and hugging Hiccup and all that sort of stuff. But you don't see any of that. Also, after such a nice scene, Astrid is acting like she's not impressed by everything Hiccup and Toothless have shown. What? She comes off as reluctantly agreeing with Hiccup rather than being blown away and impressed by everything, to the point where her entire point of view has changed and she also begins to like Hiccup. But that's not in the remake. The writers don't know the characters or the scenes very well, or they're trying to change too much where the scene starts to become something else and means something entirely different. Here is some of my big problems. The reason the Vikings are at Berk, which wasn't really explained much in the animation because it was kind of assumed that, oh, the Vikings have been here for 300 years. They grew up, lived here, and that's how it is. In the live action, all these Vikings have come from vast parts of the world to find and go after the one true nest and kill every single dragon. And they've been doing this for 300 years. This is a completely different plot point to what it was in the animation. In the animation, the Vikings were trying to get rid of the dragons and push them out, and so that their livestock and the way of life isn't being threatened. Vastly two different kinds of sides of the coin. And then when it comes to the actual fight scene on the dragon's nest, when all the dragons leave, why are they celebrating? They didn't kill any dragons. The dragons aren't dead. They all left. That is exactly what they wanted to do in the original animation film. They wanted all the dragons to leave. That's what they achieved. At least they thought, until the Red Death appeared. However, in the live action, they wanted to kill all the dragons, but they didn't kill any dragons. But then they celebrate after not killing a single dragon. Weird. Just really weird. Another big thing was the final battle. How on earth did Hiccup know that dragons aren't flammable on the inside? It's not like this scene was cut out from the final film. Oh, that's right, it was. How do you make a film that's 30 minutes longer and cut out a pivotal point of the story? In the live action, this scene doesn't exist. Is there a different way Hiccup possibly learns about this? No, there isn't. So he just got lucky, basically, which I think is a really, really dumb thing they did. You can't just make Hiccup get lucky. Hiccup is this intellectual guy who sees things in a deeper level, so the fact he just guessed and it worked doesn't feel very Hiccup-like to me. And yes, I just gestured to all of Hiccup just then. See, now that's kind of funny. The humorous lines throughout the entire film just didn't hit at all, and it just was cringe. I think this comes to like the dialogue delivery, because it's just weird and it doesn't seem right half the time. And I think it's probably to do with the fact that no one can really be as Hiccup as Jay Baruchel, the original voice of Hiccup, and same with Astrid and America Ferrera. No one can be better than them. It feels weird to see someone else kind of take up that role, but then not commit to some extent and not fill in the shoes the same way. So the entire character vibe was very different. The writers, I don't think they knew what the original characters were like. So they changed them up and tried to make them original, but also different, and that was weird. I don't know why they did that. So anyhow, that's my main honest thoughts on the How to Train Your Dragon live action remake. All in all, I think there were some great scenes. However, there were too many little changes that just made the movie feel so much more different, but still one of the best live actions I've seen by far. Just not good enough in my books. Comment what you think. I wrote a 6-page doc while watching this movie on what I thought of this remake, so please like and subscribe. Okay, I'm gonna go rewatch the animated franchise now for like the 100th time. Bye!